Yeah, folks, it's time for some Demon Hunter cards, which normally put me right to sleep. I am not the biggest Demon Hunter enjoyer, but dang, do we get a sick Fabled Legendary here with Broxagar, one of my all-time favorite Warcraft characters. Every time we used to get custom cards of this guy, I would be so pumped, and now we're finally getting a real Broxagar card, rocking the Axe of Cenarius, which you may recognize from the old card Rockbiter Weapon. I was always like, why is the iconic and legendary Axe of Cenarius featured in Rockbiter Weapon? Like, what the heck does that mean? Anyway, here it is for real as one of Broxagar's fabled cards getting added into your deck for free. As long as you slot Broxagar into your deck, you're going to get the Axe of Cenarius in the first portal to Argus. But your buddy Broxagar, who is a 2-mana 12/12 charge, craziness, has this start of game effect, disappear, and then it reads, kill all 4 demons from Argus to reappear in hand. So this is kind of complicated, but it'll make sense once we get through it. It's sort of a quest, basically, where you have to play this first portal to Argus. That's going to summon you a 1/1 demon for your opponent. Then you're going to have to kill that demon to get the next portal. So here are the demons, right? A fleeing Urzul. You're going to summon this up. When you kill it, you're going to draw a card. Because remember, this is your opponent's. You're going to kill it. It says your opponent draws a card. That's you. You're going to draw the card and get the second portal of Argus shuffled into your deck. So the second portal of Argus is going to summon this guy after you play it. That's going to draw you a card. Shuffle the third portal of Argus into your deck. Once you draw the third portal of Argus, you're going to then summon the Wrath Guard. Once you kill it, you get you draw a card and you get the final portal. That's going to summon you the Fleeing Terror Guard. Once you kill that one, then Broxagar is back in hand. So basically, he has been chasing down all these demons, and once he's killed them, he's ready for duty. And he's like, finally, here, I'm here, and I'm going to be an awesome 2-mana 12/12 charging minion. So the challenge here is basically drawing all your portals and killing all of the demons in order to unlock your super strong fabled 2-mana 12/12. And each demon, as you see, gets a little bigger. They all have 1 health, I guess, because they're fleeing. They're easy targets, but they're a little stronger. And your goal here is going to be to kill them. Now, you have the Axe of Cenarius also getting added into your deck, which can help. This has lifesteal and reads after your hero attacks and kills a minion, draw a portal to Argus. So that is a way to get 2 of the portals pretty reliably, as long as you're killing stuff. So, just kill one of the demons, draw a normal card, and draw a portal. That's nice. You will, I guess, have to draw at least 1 portal through some other mechanism, unless you add some durability to your Axe of Cenarius. So you might need a little help or a little extra card draw in order to get through all of this. So in essence, all that said, you're going on this kind of quest that's not a quest, and eventually getting to this 2-mana crazy bomb charge minion. So is it worth it? Man, that's hard to say. It is so hard to visualize this card because there are just so many moving pieces and a lot of timing. In particular, it's like, how quickly do you draw that first portal to Argus? Because that's just in your deck, right? Like, you don't necessarily have it. Your deck's a little smaller technically because Broxagar's out. It's only a 29 card deck or whatever. So, tiniest little bit more likely to find it organically. But at the same time, if it takes you a minute to find that first portal, you're kind of cooked, right? Because you need to get this chain started as soon as possible. You also maybe need to find the axe in order to find the other portals faster. I could see some worlds where you just don't get these things going and you don't start finding your portals until, maybe, who knows, turn 5, 6, 7. If you start this on turn 5, 6, or 7, it might still take you 2 or 3, 4 turns to finish. Man, it might be a really late 12/12 charge. I will also acknowledge that even if things go like insanely perfectly and you hit this like ASAP and you're just hitting everything perfectly on curve, you may be looking at like turn 5 or something when you play Broxagar. I don't know exactly, but maybe it's possible technically to do it even sooner, but probably turn 5 or 6 is like the normal speed you're playing the Broxagar. I don't want to write off a 12/12 charge because it's obviously nuts for only 2 mana. A lot of crazy stuff you can do with a 12/12 charge for only 2 mana, but it's not game winning necessarily, right? In some cases it would be if you spent your entire early game, aggroing your opponent, softening them up, getting ahead, keeping them on the back foot. Then yeah, I think a 2 mana 12/12 charge would be backbreaking and would win you the game. What I'm worried about is you've put in so much time and work to like drawing cards, killing these dudes. They're still just playing a normal game while you're doing all this, you know? Like, if you're using your Axe of Cenarius to kill your fleeing Incubus and your fleeing Wrathguard, you're not using it to kill their stuff. And they're just doing their thing. They're hitting you. Have you fallen so far behind or done so little impact to their face that a 12-12 charger is just like, okay, whatever. It's like, you know, okay, I'll just use my removal spell on that and keep going. You did all this work and nothing really happened because you just spent so much time and energy on all this stuff that you didn't get there. That's what I'm worried about, is like, man, I'm putting in all this work and I don't know if it's, you know, it's not like for quests, for instance, a lot of the quest rewards are these like long-term crazy game ending things, you know, where they just snowball the you know, this is not that, but it still takes just as much work in many cases. You compare this, like, I don't know, Murloc quest for Paladin or quest Warlock, right? The two strongest quests these days in Standard probably. You know, those are the long-term game-ending effects. It's like infinite value, infinite scaling. This is just a 12-12 charge. I don't think it's enough of a reward, to be honest. I you know, if you got a portal that spit out a little dude, you know, yeah, you'd have some long-term upside in this. But for this one-time punch, I don't know. Now, it's not like crazy hard to kill these demons. You know, we have stuff like the pirate package in Demon Hunter right now. You know, you can summon a lot of little 1/1 pirates with dangerous cliffside or whatever. You don't have to necessarily be using your face. You just run these in or whatever. So there's like little ways to do this efficiently. Put patches in your deck. If you're drawing a bunch of cards, you're naturally going to get a lot of pirates anyway. So it's not that it's hard necessarily to kill the incubuses, but just remember, you're not using these to go face. You're not using these to enable other things, kill other stuff. It's still some opportunity cost on all of this. Regardless of how easy it is, it's like it's still opportunity cost. You could be doing other things. And I think there's still going to be some dry spells too, where you just didn't hit the axe, or you're missing a portal and it's taking too long and the window just closes on you before the Broxigar is good. So I don't know, man. It's like, I'm sure there are some ways to ease that a little bit, reduce the friction, you know, some like, you know, find a weapon tutor, your axe comes in, spell draws specifically. There are ways, I'm confident, whether now or later, that will ease the burden here a little bit, but it's just still all opportunity cost to overcome. So, boy, I don't know, man. I'm just nervous this is going to take too much work and not be worth it. So I'm sad. Like, this is a really fun, really cool mechanic. I love Broxigar to death, and the art on this is insane. Like, so many tokens, like they went all out on this card, right? It's really, really cool. I'm just not sure it's very good. I think it's actually a little weak. That makes me sad. All right, next up here, let's take a look at the Eternal Hold, Demon Hunter's other legendary. It's a location, 6 mana, 3 durability. Get a demon that costs 5 or more. And then if your deck has no minions, your next one costs 0, which there's a big debate among some of the creators about whether this discounted only demons or any minion. You know, like, my reading of this initially is any minion, and it has actually since been confirmed on Reddit that it was any minion. But I know previously you guys gave me a really hard time because of this card, Malorn, in its reveal. I thought Malorn discounted hero powers because this is the exact same structure. You've got a sentence and then a period, like get a thing, period. And then if you've done a thing that mentions a new subject, in this case, hero power or minion, your next one is discounted in some way. I thought Malorn initially discounted hero power because, you know, that's a sentence. If you've imbued your hero power 4 times, set its cost to 1. That's a complete clause. I read that as one unbroken thing. So it discounts a hero power. I mean, obviously now in context, we know it discounts Legendary Wild God. It also makes sense if you read it that way too, you know. But you know, unbroken sentence. We're back to Eternal Hold. Now that unbroken sentence is being respected. If your deck has no minions, your next one costs 0, but could very easily still just refer to that first sentence in the same way that it does with Malorn, where you get a demon that costs 5 or more, and then if your deck has no minions, your next demon costs 0. So I got some umbrage to take here. Inconsistent clause respecting here among the text. Not a big deal. Definitely not holding a grudge with Malorn at all. But the takeaway, regardless, is that Eternal Hold will discount any minion to 0. If your deck has no minions, this is kicking off a little bit of a no minion package in Demon Hunter. We're going to see a handful of other cards in this video that also have effects if you have no minions, and some stuff to generate some minions as well. I think specifically actually demons once again. Do keep in mind too with Broxigar in particular, because he disappears at start of game, he will not be in your deck. So this does not say if your deck started with no minions, so that would still work. It would see slam this on turn 6, you know, Broxigar is gone. This would still be totally fine to activate. So we could see a little bit of a Broxigar no minion hybrid thing that's gonna show up, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Also, like, technically, if you generated any other minion that's not a demon, it might also be able to be costed 0. So if there's any, I looked real quickly, I didn't notice any like giant minion generation for Demon Hunter, particularly that comes from a spell. Again, like, technically you could generate a minion with a minion and then, like, you know, empty the deck, but there's a whole lot of work that goes into that. You'd have to like tutor all your minions out to make sure this goes off. You'd be adding all these layers of failure and stuff that you probably wouldn't want to do. So generally you'd want either a weapon or spell to generate one of these minions that you push down to 0, which probably does limit the kind of upside from it. You know, there is stuff like CCG who could, you know, generate you an awesome Demon Hunter minion that gets set to 0 or whatever, but then, you know, you got to draw the CCG, you got to get it out of the deck first. It's like, you're not going to want to add all that mess. So, you know, first and foremost, you're probably just taking that demon from the demon pool, which if you look at the pool of bigger demons, it's honestly pretty solid. There aren't too many things at 5. There's actually almost as many like 8 mana demons as there are 5 mana demons. So the like cost basis here is you're going to average like a 7 or 8. Also keep in mind battle cries, which normally fail off random summons, are still good here because you're getting it and reducing it. So if you get like, you know, a Kill Jaden or whatever, it's not just a 7/7, it's also going to be a Kill Jaden, right? So could be some upside. Same thing for Archimond, actually, if you're generating other random demons, and Archimond might actually pay off instead of just being a dead 7/7 on board. So I actually do kind of think this happens fast enough for a 6 mana card. Like, you get a decently sized body down. Sometimes it's like a big awesome taunt thing for 8, or an omen that has some crazy reactivity. Occasionally some failures, but they're not usually that bad, you know. It's not great for 6, but, you know, you're okay to maybe take 1 down turn, because this is then going to pay off even more on the next hit and then the final 3rd hit as well, right? So as long as you don't get a total whiff or die the turn you play this, it does start to turn into something pretty cool. The question is, how tied to its fate of a no minion deck is this card? And I think as we explore the rest of the no minion package, using this as kind of one of the rewards of the package, along with maybe one other that looks pretty promising, I'm not sure it's going to be enough to get that entire deck there. And there are also, we're going to talk about some like little OTK stuff that's possible with Broxigar. Again, there's just too many pieces going into this, too many conditions, too many failure points, a big challenge from a deck building standpoint. So like, yes, you generate me a vacuum and you give me this card on turn 6, and it's like, yeah, I think it's actually kind of okay. But getting up to that point, it's going to be really, really hard. I could maybe see it as like a, you know, a tier 3 deck at best with everything that we see right now, which, you know, if this is the best card in a tier 3 deck, that's not the worst place in the world to be. You know, maybe that means you're a 3-star card at the end of the day, but pushing beyond that's really, really tough. Even though I do think a lot of the setup on this isn't as bad as it looks. It's just a lot of the payoff on this isn't as bad as it looks. Like, the demons are pretty good, I'm trying to say, but the deck, the structure, the context, that's where this one starts to crumble for me. All right, so next up is Lasting Legacy, a new 3-mana spell. This one gives your hero +4 attack this turn, so honestly, solid damage output at a baseline. But if your deck has no minions, give any in hand +4 attack. Now, that's a crazy buff, because if you generate, you know, a few things in hand, like the +4 attack across 3 or 4 things is like, there's a lot of total stats. Again, for only 3 mana, when you're kind of getting decent upside anyway on the base attack. So this could be crazy high pressure. And do keep in mind, if you wanted to, you could keep Broxigar in hand after all this work, and instead of trying to use Broxigar immediately as a just like, hey, I'm just, you know, I'm done with the thing, I'm going to play this and try to take a swing and hit you hard, get a 12-12 down, you could arguably save it up as a sort of combo piece where you play this or a couple of these. Like, you're on turn 8, you play a couple of these, you get +8 for yourself, you give your Broxigar +8, and suddenly you're looking at a 28 damage OTK possibility with your Broxigar for 8 mana. Is that good? I am not totally sure. Like, it's definitely a lot of damage. Like, let's be clear. That will sometimes be enough to kill certain opponents, you know? A Murloc Paladin or whatever might just be exposed to that. The issue is against fast opponents, you've spent so much time doing the Broxigar stuff and so much time having like cards like this in your hand that didn't really do anything for you for a long time, and so much time drawing cards and stuff. You're probably dead to Murloc Shaman already. Or Murloc Paladin. I don't know if I said Murloc Paladin's what I meant. I don't know if I said Murloc Shaman. Murloc Paladin, you're dead to Murloc Paladin already. Alternatively, if you're playing a slower deck in current Hearthstone, they probably have 25 armor already and they're at 55 health because, again, you've spent all this time doing all this stuff for Broxigar. I don't know that it's going to be worth it. Like, just from a deck construction and commitment standpoint, from a turns and timing standpoint, it's, again, just a lot of moving pieces to get all of that together. So I don't really see the no minion OTK Broxigar deck coming together. So then you have to consider this in the context of like, hey, I'm generating random demons. There's this card. We're going to see another one here shortly that's generating some random demons, and I'm using Lasting Legacy maybe just to buff all those and kind of overwhelm the opponent with lots of demons. The challenge there, right, is that this is all in on attack and it doesn't have a health vector. So if they're not doing like charge stuff or somehow sticking on board really compellingly, then the +4 attack doesn't necessarily always go anywhere. You know, it's sort of all in on this, which is tough. So it's like, man, it's hard, right? It's one of those where it's a lot of numbers. I don't hate it. If +4 attack sometimes gonna feel worth it anyway in Demon Hunter, honestly. Like, just, you know, an aggressive Demon Hunter, it's not the most efficient 4 for 3, but, you know, if you have any other attack multipliers in any way, it becomes really interesting. So I don't want to write this off. I think it's a fine card. I just think committing into this big time package, this isn't necessarily the payoff that makes it all worth it, if that makes sense. So moving on to Hounds of Fury, this is a 4-mana spell. This summons 2 3/3 demons. And then if your deck has no minions, they attack the lowest health enemy, which is another way to potentially get some big damage outputs. Even going face, if you like hit them really hard with this stuff, or Broxigar, maybe this could be a little 6 damage finisher if you're not running any other minions. I do think sometimes this will feel like a really awkward play. You're just trying to squeeze this in on turn 4 or whatever. It's not that it's not great. Well, it's not great stat output, but, you know, just playing a couple 3/3s that instantly trade into a 4/4 or whatever is going to feel bad sometimes. And that will absolutely happen with this sort of card where it's like, crap, they don't have anything small on board. This is just going to feel really clunky. Sometimes, sure, they might trade into some 1/1s and feel like they took value trades or whatever, but that's not always going to line up. And it's also just occasionally going to be really hard to send these into face, right? You can clear a board to sometimes open up that face, but 6 damage for 4 is not that crazy. That's just a fireball with extra work and extra steps sometimes. If you're looking to send it face. So it's that weird combination where it's not really that good against the board. It's not good at developing a board. It's not really that good at going for face damage. So what is it good at? I don't really think it's very good at anything, actually. All right, next up is the Time Lost Glaive, a 1-mana 2/2 weapon with Death Rattle. Get a random demon from the past. So pretty solid little weapon here. A little 1-mana 2/2, maybe something you could use to clear up some Broxigar demons, but, you know, just solid stats. We haven't really seen these 1-mana 2/2 weapons like thrive necessarily, but it's okay. And then you get some upside with this random demon from the past, which in a normal deck is not going to be worth it, right? Who cares? Random demon from the past is going to be garbage very often, really, really tough to use. You know, just not worth it. In a no minion deck, maybe this is a way to fuel some minions in hand, because you might need minions in hand, stuff to do, cards in your deck that aren't minions. You know, you just have to have enough. This might just naturally fill that slot because you got to get to 30, and this is not a minion, and it gives me minions. Sometimes that's what you need. So far, I don't think the payoffs have necessarily been great. I think the legendary location's pretty cool. The rest of the deck, though, I don't know. We're going to see a card here, though, in a second. I guess we'll just jump right into it. That might be better. It is Solitude, a new 2-mana spell. This one allows you to discover a minion, which is nicer because you get to pick something modern and you get to pick it, which is good. And then if your deck has no minions, reduce the cost of any in your hand by 2. So suddenly a pretty big, significant discount potentially across multiple things. So you could spend turns generating minions randomly off stuff like this. And then, you know, you might actually be able to discount your hands by like 4 mana, 10 mana, or whatever in a big way. Now, I will note that the Eternal Hold, this already sets it to 0, which does feel kind of weird, you know? Like, I'm glad this sets it to 0. It makes this card better, but it doesn't necessarily vibe well with Solitude, because reducing from 0 to, you know, -2, it actually does sometimes matter for cost increases. Like, technically it matters, but 97% of the time, 99% of the time, it won't matter. It'll still just be from 0 to 0. Something there. And then, you know, of course, these are spells like, but you could get a handful of like super buffed stuff that has super discounts as well. Again, you know, Broxigar going to 0 is cool. I can kind of still see a Broxigar OTK. Charge minions are sometimes risky. We do still have, what's his name? What's that guy's name? This guy, Kane Sun Fury, right? But remember, you're probably not wanting to run him in your deck. Like, technically you can, because it's not if your deck started with no minions. You could like tutor him out and then do all this stuff, but it's like, it's really tough. But it could be a good way to get Broxigar through for the OTK side of things. Does Broxigar going to 0 really matter though? 2 is probably cheap enough to set up the OTK anyway. So again, it's just like, I'm not really seeing it all come together. There's no through line where I'm like, yes, okay, I see exactly how this wins the game. Maybe that's Broxigar, but that just doesn't seem like it gets there to me. Any other plan, it doesn't seem like it's going to come online fast enough. Like, you know, if you do all this turn 5, turn 6, dump a bunch of low cost demons, they're just going to get swept up, right? They're just going to go away. Like, you know, it's not gonna stabilize you anyway. It's not gonna have instant lethality in any way without more charge stuff outside the occasional Doom Guard or something maybe. So it's like, I just don't really see it coming together, even with what, you know, on a surface level appears to be a very powerful effect. Like, this is a crazy discount. So you don't want to like totally write it off. We also have, I should just acknowledge, some cards already in standard that do play really nicely with this stuff, like Blind Box. Get 2 random demons, Outcast, discover them instead. Like, again, that's 2 more discovered demons that then get, you know, potentially very significant discounts off Solitude. That's cool, but, you know, again, you spend 4 mana up front. It's still just a pile of kind of random demons. Even with discovers, it's not all aligned along a game plan. There's going to be things that are defensive, things that are aggressive, and it just, I don't know if a pile of random discounted stuff is really going to get there, and I don't think any of this really lends itself to survivability or turning the corner in a Broxigar package. So what I'm getting at is, I just don't see this coming together into a cohesive deck, and I don't really think these cards stand out enough on their own outside of that, because they kind of have to be in a deck with dominions, which excludes them from everything else. So in some ways, very, very powerful effect, but in a lot of ways, I think its fate is tied to a potentially very, very weak deck. Next up here is the Doomsday Prepper, a 5 mana 5/4 with Outcast. Your hero is immune until your next turn, which, we talk about OTK decks, like, all right, you know, my Broxigar deck, you know, maybe I use this to stay alive and set up that big Broxigar combo or whatever, but hey, guess what? It's a freaking minion. Which, again, like, technically you can run minions, but you don't want to, right? You don't want to have to tutor them out. That's even more work and extra steps. It's also 5 mana. So I don't know. We've seen cards like this succeed in the past, certainly, like Timeout in Paladin and stuff. Could be really cool. But this is a little more expensive. It does have this Outcast conditionality baked into it as well. Is that going to be a little bit too prohibitive? And will there be a deck that needs this is really the bigger question, right? Paladin put together some decks that could leverage that timeout in a really nice way. Will Demon Hunter put together a deck that leverages this at the more significant cost and considering the conditionality side of it too? Because particularly if you're using this like set up a combo, a lot of the time what could happen in a combo deck is your combo pieces naturally filter down to the left side of your hand and you can't play them because they're combo pieces. And then your Doomsday Prepper is like stuck in the 3rd spot, and it's like crazy hard to get to it from the right because you keep drawing more stuff. You can't get to it from the left because it's combo stuff. So it's like, that seems a little weird to me too. Like, this conditionality actually is particularly problematic for a combo deck. I think there will be some people who like toss this into decks because they love the idea of it and they love buying an extra turn. I don't actually think it's going to make very many decks better though. Moving on to the Perennial Serpent. This is cool. 8 mana 7/9 beast with Rush. Big ol' Rush beast, and it costs 4 less if a minion is dormant, which this is a really fun little condition we haven't seen much of. Don't forget, we did see a card already in this set on the first day, I believe it was, that does set something dormant, imprison an enemy minion. It goes dormant for 10,000 turns. So some ways to make things dormant on Demon Hunter. Of course, you can also just run your own stuff that is dormant as well. You don't have to force the enemy's hand. Don't forget, we have the Dread Seeds in particular right now in Demon Hunter, which is a pretty good package. Like, actually, this can kind of be the core package for a deck. Just summon a random dormant Dread Seed, and then you instantly have a 4-mana Perennial Serpent with 7/9 rush. I don't hate it at all. I think a 7/9 rush for 4 is pretty great. Like, take some immediacy, leave a big thing behind on board. It helps your dormant stuff kind of catch up a little bit, because sometimes those don't, they take a minute to get up to speed, and then you start overwhelming in the mid game and just turn after turn dropping some stuff. This is a little bit of that speed up recovery. That's also still like often I think this could like trade into a 3/3 and just be a 7/6 left behind on turn 4, which, hey, that's not a bad turn at all. And if you're already running a Dreadseed package and happily doing that, this is just kind of a power spike in that deck, in that package. So yeah, I think that makes this pretty good, and it's a cool new condition as well. All right, finally here we have the Aeon Rend, a new spell, 4-mana fell spell with rewind, and deal 4 damage to 2 random enemies. Now, much like we had the conversation yesterday with that rogue card, this is worded like bursting shot, which means it cannot deal 4 to the same enemy twice. You can't like send 8 to face with this. It is always going to target 2 separate things. Rewind does mean, you get a chance to hit the things you want. So, if the opponent has a 1/1, a 4/4, and face out on board, maybe you want to hit the 4/4 and face. And if you hit the 1/1 and said, oh crap, let me re-roll and try again, and then you hit the 1/1 and face, and you're uninstalling the game. Which ultimately, this just looks bad to me, man. I like that it can go face. That always helps, but it's just so hard to guarantee that. But you can't guarantee it. But there's just so many board states where you won't be able to guarantee that. Maybe if you set up some AoE first, but it's going to feel like it's just not that efficient at going face. It's not that efficient at clearing boards. It's very specifically shaped where a lot of boards are just going to feel super awkward. It's like, hey, they got a 5/5 and a 1/1. It's like, good God, this card's useless to me right now. It's just clunky and specific and expensive, and the rewind, it just, it doesn't really change anything materially all that often. I don't think this opens up any fell synergies or anything. Ultimately, that means this is yet another rewind card that looks really, really bad to me. So many of these have looked so slow. It's like they don't want us playing them because they know the animation is too long. They're like, nope, we'll just make them all weak. I think this just looks very bad. So all that said, let's go ahead and rate these cards from 1 to 5 stars. Roxagar is a 3-star card. The Eternal Hold is a 3-star card. Lasting Legacy is a 3-star card. Hounds of Fury is a 2-star card. Solitude is a 3-star card. Time Lost Glaive is a 2-star card. Doomsday Prepper is a 2-star card. Perennial Serpent is a 4-star card. Aeon Rend is a 1-star card. And yeah, there you go. Basically, I think the ceiling on this no minion deck is basically like mid-tier 3. So the best cards I'm saying are 3 stars, and the worst cards in the package basically are 2 stars. But honestly, you could almost go 2 stars is the ceiling. I don't really think it's going to get there. I think it's going to be really hard to come together. Roxagar is like kind of connected to that, but like theoretically also can be his own separate thing. So also bumped him a little bit as a 3-star card. But I wouldn't fight you if you said these were 2-star cards. I don't think for me they can really ever eclipse that 3-star status. Like this card I actually kind of like if it wasn't for the condition. I think this would be a really solid card if it wasn't for the conditionality, but it's pulled down basically by the deck that it has to be attached to. Same for Solitude. Like this is pulled down by the deck it has to be attached to, but it's like theoretically an insane card. It's just, it's a synergy fit, and it has to fit into that deck, and that deck I think is not going to get there. So I'm pulling it down basically. Aeon Rend just looks terrible though. I just don't see this at all. So curious on your thoughts for this Demon Hunter stuff. Are you excited about playing Broxagar like I am, even if you think he might not be the strongest? Seems really fun to go on this little journey with Broxagar. Super sick character and artwork too, so that's always great. Thanks always for watching. Stay tuned for, I guess, a few more reviews, and then we're done, man. It's crazy how fast this has gone. But thank you again. Love you a ton, and until next time, game on.